Begin tonight with our investigation into disturbing allegations made against the chief judge of Smith County.
An East Texas woman claims she received more than 1,000 sexually explicit social media messages from an elected official, much of it while the judge was conducting county and state business and being paid your tax dollars.
That tells me I'm not going to see you tonight.
Why are you getting mad? That's not what I said.
No, but you're going to go to sleep early.
This is a recording that private investigator Tim McLamee says is the voice of Smith County Judge Joel Baker. McLamee is a 25-year law enforcement veteran who has often testified as a digital evidence expert for both the state and defense in criminal trials. McLamee's client, a woman who asked us not to reveal her identity, says Judge Baker initiated an online relationship with her by sending a friend request from his personal Facebook account.
He made pretty disturbing comments to me. But I was kind of caught off guard. I was like, I don't really, and my first initial thought was, this is not really him.
She says she'd never interacted with Baker before and to this day has never met him in person. She told me she's still unsure why he chose her.
And he messaged me and said something along the lines like, hey, how are you? I would, something like, I would love to come drink a glass of wine with you is how it started. That's how our initial contact was.
Casual conversation that she says escalated after she made a particular post to her page a few months ago.
He's always been sexual with me, but he's made comments and I never reacted to him. And then in October, when me and my boyfriend broke up, is when it really got explicit.
A friend suggested she contact McLamee, and he looked into it for free.
I personally wanted to know, is this our county judge? Is this truly our elected county judge that's doing this?
He says out of curiosity. Using his expertise, he set out to verify whether the messages originated from Baker or a hacker. Together, they came up with an aggressive plan to continue accelerating the online relationship just to find out.
What is he willing to do? How far is he willing to go?
The woman in McLamee claimed the judge sent over 1,000 message exchanges over the course of 10 days. One was sent on February 10th at 2:37 p.m. Baker explains that he's at a state committee meeting in Austin looking at complaints about judges. Dozens of sexually charged messages follow using language so explicit we can't repeat it on air.
And I can understand him doing it on his own time, like when he's at home, at night, but he would talk to me very explicit while he was like, and you saw the Facebook messages, like when he's like, I'm in a meeting, but still talking to me very explicit and dirty. I'm like, aren't you supposed to be focusing, in your meetings? And he's like, it's hard to focus.
The hearing the judge is referring to is the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, where he has served since 2012.
Had Joel Baker simply said, I am in a very important court hearing. I cannot talk right now. I will contact you after I get off work today, I would have had the utmost respect for that response.
But the response they did get came as a shock. She says during that judicial conduct meeting, upon request, the sitting judge sent her a photo of his genitalia.
When he sent me the picture, did you see the picture? That was what shocked me, because I didn't think, the conversations were very, very, very explicit, but when he sent me that when he was working in Austin, that kind of was like, oh my God, like he really just did that.
Later that evening, she says he sent another explicit photo of his genitals from his Austin hotel, and another while he says he's driving home from Austin, a photo of a man exposing himself from the seat of a car.
Had anyone saw him in that vehicle on that public road and reported him, the shame that it brings on him in Smith County dwarfs all this 100 times over.
McLamee later took photos of Baker's parked car with county judge plates, finding that the car's interior and steering wheel matched.
Had she had something in his court or something that he could have been involved in ruling on, and he was engaged in this type of behavior with her, she could have absolutely attempted to blackmail him.
According to judicial records, the woman has no cases in front of Baker, and she denies any political ties She admits she consented to the sexual conversations and requested the photos, even sending some explicit ones of her own. Much of that was part of their plan.
He found her, he located her, whichever you choose to call it, on social media. He friended her. He begins talking to her.
Him being in the position that he is in, how would you have that much confidence if you hadn't done it before to just talk to some random person and say the kind of things he was doing?
Now, late this afternoon, Judge Baker finally responded. For the last 6 days, we have repeatedly asked the judge for a response, and he texted us this response from the same phone he used to text the woman in our investigation. Judge Baker denies that he initiated contact with her, and he denies that he had any desire to have a relationship with her. Baker also claims that he was attempting to meet the woman to confront her and find out who was trying to, quote, destroy his family. He also denies sending any explicit videos or photos.
There is more to the story.
Yeah, next we will walk you through the steps we took in our investigation of what we uncovered.
We'll be right back.
More now on the accusations made against a top East Texas official accused of sexting a woman he has allegedly never even met.
Some of these messages were sent while he was being paid to represent county taxpayers and a state commission. We continue with our investigative team's report on these allegations.
But my opinion setting here is that Joel Baker did not commit a technical crime against the state of Texas. My concern is the ethical issues, his behavior as a representative of Smith County.
KLTV spoke to ethics attorney Lillian Hardwick in Austin about whether this type of behavior, while on state and county time, violates the Judicial Code of Conduct.
I think it would violate some of the canons in the code as well as the overarching standard in the Texas Constitution. The members of the public are not held to that kind of standard because they are not sitting in judgment of other people's arguments and complaints.
Hardwick told me she expects the Conduct Commission will investigate these claims, leaving Baker to have to defend himself in front of the same panel he sits on.
I mean, perhaps it could be shown that in only one or two instances, if any instances, was he actually conducting hearings. There may have been a recess, he may have been on a lunch break, something like that.
Over the past week, we've attempted to contact Judge Baker many times to discuss these allegations. The one man who is talking is private investigator Tim McLamee. He showed us thousands of messages and several explicit photos he says are proof of repeated sexting by Judge Baker.
He chose to continue sexting back and forth and even making remarks that he was more interested in the sexting with the female than the hearings that he was presiding over.
And how much of it was being done on the clock. Time-stamped on Facebook messages show the sexting going back and forth during county business hours. Conferences paid for with taxpayer money and an Austin trip here to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Baker is their vice chair. Those judicial conduct meeting times aren't made public, so we wanted to be sure what was said in these messages was happening in real life. We made a specific request to Director Shauna Willing of the Judicial Conduct Commission. The director confirmed hearings were going on February 10th through the 12th, the same 3 days and the same time period that over 100 messages were exchanged between Baker and the woman. Several hundred more were sent the following week during an education conference for commissioners' courts he attended in College Station. And that explicit photo sent allegedly while Baker was at an Austin hotel, we obtained the hotel receipt from the Judicial Commission through an open records request and went to Austin to the same hotel room, 420. The furniture, carpet, and curtains in the room where the judge stayed match the explicit photo's background. And what about the photo of a man exposing himself in a vehicle? McLamee provided us photos of Baker's car, and we took our own photos and confirmed the characteristics match both McLamee's snapshots and that photo sent through social media.
Do you think there's any possibility that it's not him?
Not at this point, no. Because everything that he told me that he was doing or where he was or things that he was doing was all confirmed that he was.
In addition to social media messages, there were texts and phone calls. We verified that the phone numbers were from Judge Baker's campaign phone, and the other number turns up a hit to his Facebook page. Even with this information, we wanted to know if it was possible for a Facebook account, cell phones, and even Baker's schedule to be hacked.
To be compromised at that level, it would take an expert that would have the time, ability, the assets, the motivation to do it. Out of the concern that you just stated, I did more.
That tells me I'm not going to see you tonight.
This is a phone call McLamee says his client recorded.
Frustrated because you are like willy-nilly on everything.
I don't know what that term means.
Leading up to this, there are several social media messages where Baker asks her to meet.
Not mad. I just need to know. I don't want to be just left hanging. I got a hotel room.
The voice on the call was enough for McLamee.
Can't be 95% right. 95% would never said anything. But you cannot have that much evidence in that many forms and not come forward.
But just days before closing his file on February 21st, the two says they believed their probe was discovered because all communication suddenly stopped.
He deleted me as a friend on Facebook, completely stopped talking to me.
The same day, Baker posted this to his Facebook page, saying he'd gotten a strange message from a, quote, duplicate account. Baker also wrote a longer post later in the week saying, quote, friends, there have been strange goings-on in social media land due to either fake or a hacked social media accounts. I'm getting off social media for a while and maintaining a low profile. And remember that request for hotel receipts that we submitted? On March 4th, one day after we sent our request to the Judicial Conduct Commission for Baker's hotel receipts, Baker submitted his resignation from the position he'd been appointed to by the Texas Supreme Court. In the letter, he tells the director that I realize that it is vital that I restructure my life so that I and my family can become whole again. I have suffered a great amount of stress, anxiety, depression, and grief. These issues have affected me and my reaction to all the external pressure that has almost caused the destruction of my family. Baker's resignation from the State Judicial Conduct Commission was made public this morning. No official complaint, civil or criminal, has been filed against the judge. And at this time, he remains a member of that commission until a replacement is appointed. Joan and Nessa.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
This is not the first time Judge Baker has faced allegations involving inappropriate sexual behavior. In 2011, a Tyler woman reported to police that Baker was watching her undress through a bedroom window and sending her inappropriate messages.
No charges were filed in that case, but the details were brought up during the court trial of Baker's 2014 opponent, John Furlow. Furlow was on trial last November, accused of stealing Baker's campaign signs 2 years ago. After a mistrial, prosecutors were set to try Furlow again for lying to officials during the campaign signs investigation. That trial was set for August of this year, but Thursday we learned that all charges against Furlow are being dropped. That comes after Baker sent a letter to prosecutors asking, quote, for you to consider simply dismissing all the charges against Furlow. I do not believe that the ends of justice will ever be satisfied in this matter, regardless of the outcome. We'll be right back.